legalize marijuana.
I'm very glad that you're stopping by, and if you've clicked this link, that means you're curious about what's going on with the hearings of June 9th. Well, I had the pleasure to represent a center before City Council on June 9th, and I'm very pleased to say that out of all of the centers that presented their cases, which was about 20, mine was the only center that didn't get summarily shut down, or the hardship was not summarily denied. Instead, we've been asked to come back next week. I think it's fantastic that City Council is trying to keep an open mind, and I'm very honored to have a chance to get to know them and see their processes. One thing I noticed was that there was apparently some false information in the file against my client, and the city attorney was quick to try to correct that and let my client know that they looked pretty good. The false information in the file was that there had been some complaints of medical marijuana smoking in front of my client's location in Venice. The reason that's impossible is because, well, if there was pot smoking, it had nothing to do with my client, because their center has not yet opened. They are one of the few who filed a hardship and have waited till their hearing before they open. And this particular center is being run by a very experienced hospital administrator as well as a very experienced physical therapist, both of whom have been in patient care for over 20 years. So they are very respectable individuals who took their time. They've built out a space perfectly according to code. They've consulted with their city councilman. They've consulted with Daisy Moe in planning twice, and they have stood down and are waiting to get their approval before they do open their doors. I hope that City Council does view this activity differently. Apparently it does, from the other centers that it viewed today, because it denied the hardship applications of everyone except my client. So the drive home was not bad. The drive home was great, and I'm really happy to be an attorney and represent people in a system in which people can have a day to speak directly with their elected officials, and I saw a lot of that today. Ironically, we also saw today the city workers who are going to be furloughed or laid off due to budget cuts. And here we see this medical marijuana phenomena happening, and there is no taxation to speak of. We do get our sales tax on it, but there could definitely be a special use tax and a license fee. So our city has kind of fallen asleep at the switch as to an opportunity to earn fees and licenses from these centers and to increase revenue. And how ironic that so much time was spent today by the city on these medical marijuana hearings after so many months of non-handling of them. Another issue is that they intend to extend the moratorium by 6 months, and if you go to the City Council's website, you'll be able to get some links, and I'll put them up on my site soon. Another thing I wanted to talk about were the many organizations that are now soliciting your collective's money by trading on ignorance and fear. In particular, this last weekend, there were two separate groups that are vying for the collective's money and attention. One wants to regulate your business and operate your record keeping, which I think would be very foolish, because I think centers should maintain their own records in the event that they need to raise a defense under California's medical marijuana law. The Attorney General says they're supposed to have supporting documents readily available to demonstrate the certain things that are needed to show the nonprofit entity, the seller's permit, the license, and the patient information, collective agreement, and ID photocopy. So all of those things are supposed to be available readily whenever a collective is either transporting, cultivating, or distributing cannabis. So I don't understand why someone would want to pay for an off-site service to store that information. I would think a self-reliant collective would maintain their own records as well as off-site copies thereof, in particular by using scanners and the internet. Okay, another group was offering another service, which is a unionization of the existing 187 centers. They obviously have their own conflict of interest. They all have centers that would stand to benefit if no other centers opened. So I think the objective reality is that each center should be judged on its own merits by City Council to determine if that center is compliant. Compliant according to the Attorney General's guidelines is the simple test. So what really counts is out of these 187, how many are actually compliant, how many are too close to schools, churches, etc. And then out of the new ones, how many are compliant. And they should all be swept together because there's nothing sacrosanct or special about, in my opinion, about the original 187. Now, I represented a lot of those 187, and I still do. And I respect their wishes and their position. I just have my own opinion, and that is that the marketplace will determine if there are too many medical marijuana centers, and they will go out of business. In the meantime, we have millions of people here in our city, and how many of them at one time or another may have arthritis, back pain, AIDS, God forbid, HIV, God forbid, or cancer, God forbid. But migraines are very common. Back pain is very common, and not to mention all the other conditions for which medical marijuana may provide relief. So there are literally millions of patients and or potential patients in our city, and there's no reason to artificially limit or cap the number of centers. As someone pointed out in public comment, when did we decide to cap the number of places you can buy Tylenol? The whole concept of capping the availability of medicine for patients is preposterous. And in the case of People versus Mower, we had the Supreme Court of the United States pronounce that the right of access to medical marijuana is similar to the right of access to prescription drugs. So City Council, also another problem is a lot of people like to judge whether they think people are sick when they're getting medical marijuana. That's between the patient and the doctor. That's a confidential relationship. So just because some city council member may have observed someone that may appear to them to be healthy or normal walking into a center doesn't mean that that person may not have AIDS, HIV, cancer, post-traumatic stress, anger management, or any other of a number of issues for which any licensed physician in this state may recommend cannabis. So those are some ideas I have for you for tonight. Thank you for touching base, and I'll see you soon.
Them legalize marijuana.